Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to CF Talks. Oh man, I'm so excited to be here tonight. We are going to have an awesome conversation. I am Bobby B. I'm coming to you from Jacksonville, Florida. This is CF Talks, where we have heart level conversations that lead to transformation. This is a community for entrepreneurial minded men where we help men to pursue their purpose by developing their confidence factor, baby. That's right. You got to have the confidence factor. Confidence, confidence, confidence. It's that feeling you get when it's time to go out and conquer and bring home the bacon. What's up, good people? What's up, good people? Hey, listen, it's going to be an awesome show tonight, man. It's going to be an awesome show tonight. First and foremost, I want to tell you who we are. This is CF Talks. This is an entrepreneurial safe space for men to come. And listen, what I want to tell you is that confidence factor, we have three principles. We believe that life is about growth and contribution. Growth and contribution. But in order to do that, you have to have some principles and some things that you live by. So, with that being said, I want you guys to know where you are and why you are here. This is a community where we practice three smart principles. The first is called self-mastery. Self-mastery, that's right. That's where you grow yourself from the inside out. Where I like to say that you begin to play an outside game on an inside game on an outside world, as opposed to playing an outside game on an inside world. So much time in my life, I end up looking at my circumstances and looking at my situation and thinking that the circumstance or the situation is bigger and stronger than I am. However, that is not the case. So I learned that we have to, number one, have self-mastery. That's where you play that inside game on an outside world. We work harder on ourselves, like Jim Rohn said, than we do on somebody else's job. So that's what we want to do. The second thing that we believe in accountability. Accountability. You have to have a great support system. They say that you are the average of the 5 people that are closest to you, right? So you need to have people around you. How many times you get discouraged and you get down and out? Why? Because you don't have the right vibration around you. Somebody used to say, hey, you got good vibes. You got good vibes. Back in the day, I don't think we really knew what we were talking about. We were talking about vibration, how people are coming off their vibe, how they, what level, what frequency that you're operating from. So you want to have people around you that are on a high frequency where you're moving in the direction of your hopes, your goals, your dreams, and your aspirations. So accountability is huge on the list. And last but not least, is you got to have the right resources and tools. You got to have the right resources and tools. And sometimes that means money. Sometimes that means just people. Sometimes it means things. But a lot of times it's not just being about having resources, meaning money, but about being resourceful. How about that? Being resourceful. Tony Robbins says a lot of times it's not we don't lack money. How many times have you said, I can't start the business, I don't have the money, right? You didn't want to start because you didn't have the money. But guess what? You are resourceful. You're resourceful. You can figure out a way to come up with the down payment, get the initial money to buy the product and flip the product and move to the next level. But you got to have resources and tools to do that. So here at CF Talks, we bring you the latest resources and tools, things that our other brothers in the community are using to grow their income, to create more influence and more impact in the world. And our overall goal, just so you guys know, our mission here at Confidence Factor is to impact the lives of over 5 million men. That's right, over 5 million men. We want to positively impact the lives of over 5 million men. So with that being said, what I want to do now is I want to bring up one of my co-hosts. He's doing the thing. He's coming out way from Orlando. We normally go out to his house because he has the estate home, right? He's one of the first to have the estate home. It's all remodeled and beautiful. You can stretch your toes, you know what I mean? Wiggle your toes with freedom. So let me bring on none other than the professor. He likes to set the framework, Mr. Darian Hill. Join us, baby.
Hey, what's going on, champions? Man, Lions in the building. I'm here. Another CF Talks. It's a pleasure to be here with you, fellas. Of course, we're constantly going, constantly grinding, constantly changing lives. And I'm excited for another powerful conversation tonight with our guests. Of course, listen, as Bobby said, we're here to empower the lives of over 5 million men to pursue their passion by developing their confidence factor. And here's the thing, Bobby, as you know, you know, a lot of men out there struggling with the lid, right?
Yes.
They're struggling with the lid, Bobby. And you may be asking, what is this lid thing? What is this lid? Okay. You know, there was this article I saw recently where Kyrie Irving, I'm going to post this in the group. Kyrie Irving was interviewed and he was talking about regretting not knowing how to deal with his emotions as he was winning championships with LeBron. And so he was saying that a lot of things he was dealing with, he didn't know how to express himself. So guess what he did? He isolated himself, right? And he didn't communicate about what was going on. And so when we talk about the lid, we're talking about people being lonely, being isolating themselves and feel like they don't matter. That's the enemy of us collaborating. That's the enemy of us getting together. And so we here in Confidence Factor, we're here to help men to be able to, you know, push through the lid, to be able to destroy the lid so that you can have the confidence factor to keep moving forward. And of course, you know, we have the resources and tools you mentioned, having these conversations every single Tuesday to help bring resources and experts to the table to help you guys to transform. So I'm excited for another conversation, of course. And yeah, let's keep this thing going.
Absolutely. And listen, we want to know where you're joining us from. So down in the comments, put in what city and state that you're listening from. Well, actually, I should say just put where you are in the world, because we get people watch from all over the world. So it's not just city and state. It could be anywhere in the world. So
yeah,
go ahead and type that in the chat where you're watching from. And also, listen, we got a great thing here, great concept, great principle here. Confidence factor is that, you know, we want to keep the heart level. We want to keep a heart level, right? That's what we just going to come from a heart space, because this is a safe space to have a conversation. We found that, like Darian said, a lot of these guys are feeling lonely, feeling like they're isolated, feeling like they don't matter. And it's hard to have conversations like that. We cannot have that stuff stuffed down inside of us. And then, you know, after a certain amount of time, like you said with Kyrie Irving, it would just erupt in the wrong place, wrong time. Yeah. And next thing you know, you might be, you know, slapping somebody on stage.
literally,
right? So literally. So we want to create a safe space so we can let off that steam, have other brothers that you can talk to. A lot of what we found out is that a lot of guys in the group have either been there, done that, and got the t-shirt, right? Mm-hmm. And sharing that information with other guys in the group. And that we're collapsing time, right? We're collapsing time and shortening that learning curve on a lot of things that we want to accomplish in our lives. So this is a community about wealth, success, and fulfillment. You're in the right place at the right time.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. All right. So I know we have, of course, the great producer will be joining us. All right. The great producer will be joining us. So, of course, you know, the reason why we look good, the reason why we show up with our technology, you always have to have someone who is a foundation of your technology and growth and aesthetic approach, right? So we have a phenomenal gentleman who is helping people to command confidence. He's helping people to shine, knowing how to show up on a consistent basis. He's on a big mission to really make an impact. And I'm truly, truly happy and grateful, Bobby, that we have this individual, this shining star, this change, life changer, as part of the mission here, Confidence Factor, to impact the lives of over 5 million men. We're talking about none other than the great Lamont. Yes.
What's up, fellas? What's up? Thank you for that introduction. I'm back here saying, okay, pour it on more. Just pour it on more.
Hey, listen, hey, fellas, if the fellas didn't know, this is a community where we celebrate you, not just tolerate you, right? We celebrate you. We give you your flowers while you are here.
Right. I appreciate that, fellas.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that, fellas.
And I mean every word that I say. This is not BS, okay? Lamont is a great guy.
Man, I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited. I'm excited because July, we got something exciting coming up. Ooh, do we have something exciting coming up?
Yes, we do.
I'll unleash your riches. You want to talk about GPS? We want to save that. We want to talk about it. We want to save it.
No,
we want to talk about it.
We need to talk about it right now. We're going straight to the GPS. We're going straight. GPS, listen. Here's the deal, Bobby, Lamont. All of us are trying to navigate through life. Every one of us are trying to navigate through life, right? And as you listen to Under the Sound of Our Voice, we're about 288 guys strong, roughly, in the community. Now we're a global community. And we know that no matter what country you're in, what situation you're in, whether you have a business, you're starting your business, if you're closing the $10 million deal or you're starting to make your first dollar online or whatever you're doing in terms of your profession, right? we know that, listen, ultimately you're navigating through life. And oftentimes you're going to run into some challenges. You're going to run into some obstacles. You're going to run into something in your life that challenges you. And that's a good thing, right? Fellas, that's a good thing that we go through these challenges.
Most definitely.
Because the reality is that's what's going to help us to grow. But oftentimes, you know, we get stuck. Oftentimes these challenges really stop us from continuing to move forward. As Winston Churchill says, success is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. Sometimes, fellas, let's tell the truth. We lose our enthusiasm, right? Or sometimes we need to have something to help us to just take us to that next level. And so, you know, one of the things that's required, one of the things that's required as we're going through this, navigating this journey of life, is that we oftentimes don't have a GPS. We don't have a GPS, right? And so we have this thing coming up called Unleash Your Riches. And what is Unleash Your Riches? Unleash Your Riches is the GPS to your overall wealth, success, and your fulfillment. Let me say that again. Unleash Your Riches will give you the GPS to your wealth, your success, and your fulfillment. Hear me, fellas, right? Hear me. I don't care what level you are. You need a GPS to be able to navigate the life's challenges and to navigate life successes. So this particular program, or signature program that we put together, as Lamont so eloquently said, that's going to be launching in July. We're really excited about it, because here's what our GPS is. Number one, we realize that as you're going through the journey of life, you need a GPS, which means you need to have, number one, goals, right? Maybe you don't have clearly defined goals in your life. Or maybe even if you have clearly defined goals, you're unsure as to whether or not these specific goals are the goals that you deem for your life, or whether or not, these are clearly defined goals, right? So that's number one. Number two is, of course, you need a process, right? You need a process to be able to get to that specific goal. It's all about the journey, right? It's all about the journey. So what is the path? What is the process? We want to help to support you with that. And last but not least, you need support. The Training and Development Association said this. It says the chances of you getting to your goal increases by 95% when you have a support and accountability. See, this is the part right here. This is the part right here that is so essential. As Bobby said, collapsing time. How do you really move from a desire to an achievement? How do you move from desire to achievement? Is to accountability. And so that's the GPS. We want to make sure, number one, you have your really defined goals and identify these are clearly defined goals that you want to achieve for your life. Have a process to be able to get there as you're going through life's journeys, dealing with the obstacles emotionally, mentally, physically. And last but not least, support you to make sure, hey, listen, we check in with you, and not to micromanage. It's not the thing. It's to make sure that if you say, hey, listen, fellas, I'm really want to achieve this goal for my business. I want to achieve the goal for my health. I want to achieve the goal for my family. That we want to support you. That, like I said, we are a community that's celebrating men to transform, to uplift you. And to do that, we got to hold each other accountable. We got to support each other through that process. So we invite you to join us with this new program, the signature program, this mastermind that we're doing. It's going to be special. Of course, it's not going to be in the group. We're going to have a private Zoom session, and there are going to be a number of things that's going to come with it. So I'm really excited about that particular program. So yeah, fellas, GPS, man, let's make it happen. Unleash your riches, baby.
Unleash your riches.
Unleash your
riches. Just so you guys know, riches for us, we're not just talking about money. I think it's important that we clarify that, right? When we say riches, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about your relationships. It's an acronym. It stands for relationships, your income, your community contribution, your health and fitness, your education, your spirituality. So dealing with the whole, man, looking at this from a holistic view versus just an income-based situation. So I want to just point that out to you, that riches is dealing with the whole man. A lot of times we start making a lot of money and we get disconnected from the family. I remember before, Darian, when I used to drive a black car, I was meeting so many executive men that said that they had just excelled in business. But now that, they were coming on retirement, that they didn't feel like they were integrated into their family. They didn't know how to integrate it. They said, I don't even know what to say to my kids. I'm around them and I don't even know where to begin. I don't know what they like. They haven't really invested that time. So it's kind of lopsided, excelling in income and excelling in career and in business. But on their home front, it was an imbalance. And so I think that's where, like you say, the accountability and the support comes in, because you can really tap into the wealth of knowledge that some of the other men, other brothers, other lions in the group have experienced and used to advance their relationships, tips, techniques, all different things, strategies, things you can do. I know we had Coach Ricardo on who was talking about relationships, right? The audience seemed to love Coach Ricardo, always, bringing those great pointers of things that you could do with your significant other to advance your relationship. So riches is important because we want to deal with the whole man. How do you put a system in place where you can reach your goals using a proven system and have the support you need to get you from where you are to crossing that finish line? So I think Unleash Your Riches, we've definitely put together that signature program, and I think it does that for you. So
yeah. No, definitely. And of course, I think it solely ties into what we're talking about today. Of course, with today's discussion is about how to stop trading time for money and avoid burnout, right? Tony Robbins says success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And to your point, Bobby, as men, we are chasing success in only one dimension, which is monetary success. And we arrive at that thing only to realize that this is what I was running after, right? And so other areas of our life get sacrificed. And so we want to talk about how do we stop trading time for money and avoid burnout? How do you really create, integration in your life in this whole concept of unleash your riches? And I think that's a very important discussion because I could tell you, I just got off of a coaching call, and one of the things, these are guys owning 7 and 8 figures. And you know what they were saying? They're saying, listen, when we get to the high level to be a high achiever, the guy said, if I had 5 hours to invest in working, he said I would invest about 2 to 3 hours in my mindset. He said every single day. And this is somebody who's earning 7, 8 figures in business, right? And so they emphasize the importance of really the inner aspect of ourselves. And it really made me understand the power of what we're doing here. That it doesn't matter necessarily at what income level different people are, is the fact that we're on a path to, first of all, fulfill the inner requirement of peace and tranquility and fulfillment, instead of chasing that through success in the monetary terms. Let me say that again, because a lot of guys are chasing fulfillment through money, and that's not going to happen. Right? A lot of guys are chasing fulfillment through money and think, when I arrive at this certain income, then I allow myself to be this way. Then I allow myself to live this way. Then I allow no. You got to align with the vibrational frequency of the thing that you want right now. As Lamont Gwen would say, you have to possess it.
That's right.
You have to possess it. You understand? And possession is not necessarily mean that it has to be in your hand first. Possession means that it must be claimed in your mind first.
Right. Okay, now, okay. Darren said you gotta get it before you get it. Get it?
Yes, sir. So that's where we're coming from in this community. And I know if you're part of this community, pat yourself on the back, congratulate yourself. And I wanted to also just acknowledge, so we have some new people that have come into the fold recently. And I want to acknowledge a few people. They like some Nate Bennett, Courtney. He has a very unique last name. I just want to acknowledge those guys because not only have they joined the community, they're engaging with the posts. I want to just kind of point to those guys out. They just joined the community. So welcome, fellas. If you're watching, I appreciate you, celebrate you. You're in the right place. You came because you saw something that either I posted, you saw one of our ads that we're running now, and you decided to say yes to yourself and join this community to make an impact over 5 million men. So welcome to the community. And for those of you guys who are watching on the replay, I want to celebrate you as well. For those of you guys who are watching live, appreciate you, honor you. Thank you, of course, continue to support the mission and support yourself here through Confidence Factor. And hey, before we get into the show, man, listen, we're heading to Atlanta, man. Y'all talked about Atlanta?
No, we didn't talk about Atlanta.
Oh, we talked about Atlanta?
Atlanta's done.
Okay,
back already.
All right, Atlanta's done. Well, we'll talk about that later because we have a special guest that we need to.
Our guest is fired up. He's fired up. He's ready to bring it.
All right. Go ahead, man.
Our guest tonight is Mr. Isaac Ho. He is a master. He is a master sales and mindset coach and a sought after health expert who helps entrepreneurs double to triple their income while having peace and ease inside and outside their businesses. Isaac's clients routinely sell $20,000 to $50,000 packages, and he helps clients make more sales by not teaching them sales, but teaching them how to transform their mindset, emotions, and well-being. So our guest tonight, he's going to share his story, which is a remarkable story. But Isaac's mission is to move entrepreneurs out of overwhelm and fatigue to fall in love with the services they provide and to create lifestyles of freedom and joy. Ladies, I mean, not ladies, fellas, I'd like to bring on to the stage Mr. Isaac Ho.
Yes.
Welcome.
We got to get some applause or something. I feel like we're supposed to have some applause.
I got to figure that out. I got to figure that out.
Yeah, we got to give him heart level, man. Isaac, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you for coming on board and sharing your heart, sharing your value, sharing your story, man. You know, we at Confidence Factor truly appreciate the gift that you are to the world and the gift that you're going to deliver today.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys. And I love everything you guys have been talking about and the vibes and the process and the GPS and I'm vibing with it all. Love it.
Beautiful. All right, Lamont, if you want to, kind of take it away.
Sure. I mean, sure. So Isaac, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your journey. How did you get to this place right now?
Yeah. What's really interesting is like the confidence factor. And I think anyone who teaches something at some point, they struggled with it. The best teachers always struggle with the curriculum. So confidence for me, something I struggled with since I was little growing up. And what was interesting is I have a brother, he's literally, my birthday is January 1st. His is December 21st. And so we're so close. He's basically 1 year older than me. And what happened was when I started growing up is my brother we'd eat the same food. My brother was just super shredded and I just got fatter and fatter and fatter. And so by the time I was in the third grade, I weighed 155 pounds. And at that point, I really struggled with my confidence. I struggled with the pain I had in my body from being that weight. And the first thing I transformed was my weight in middle school. And I'm going to kind of skip past that, but it basically led me into being a health and fitness coach. And so I started studying to be a health and fitness coach at 17. And within 5 years, I opened up my own brick and mortar training studio at 22 years old. And when we talk about mentorship and everything on that you guys have been talking about, I was able to do that because I found a fantastic mentor. I found a fantastic mentor that helped me with the training side of it. And then I found someone that could help me with the business side of it. I had a brick and mortar gym at 22. By 24, I had trained a team to pretty much run it for me. And I went to school to become a therapist. And I actually ended up studying with one of the therapists who treats Tony Robbins. So I went to Tony Robbins' event as one of his guests, Walked on Fire as one of his guests. It was cool. And so just finding that kind of high level of what I wanted to learn led into this point where at about 26, 27, I ran into this situation. And that's really why I love helping people with burnout, where I was actually burnt out in my business. And I've been in health and fitness for 10 years at that point. I think 27 starting when you're 17. And what I ran into was I was charging about $225 a session, and I could only give so many sessions. And so I was making money, like I was making six figures, but I didn't have the lifestyle I wanted. And I was burnt out. I'd stare at the clock when my clients would come in. I'd be hoping, like, there were times where I'd be like, I'd pay to not do this session right now. And what I ended up doing was shrinking myself down because the thing I really wanted to do was to help people with the change outside of the session. And at that time, my belief was I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to transition to being a life coach. I had never had a life coach myself, so I didn't know what that process looked like. And I grew resigned with doing work with people either in the gym or on the table, and I didn't know where to go. So for about a year, I pretty much just sat at home and watched movies and played video games. And I was super lost. I had money coming in, but I wasn't fulfilled. And I wasn't where I knew I could be based off having 10 years of the kind of trainings I had, knowing that the kind of therapies that I'd practiced in and the skill sets I had were high and above. They were, at world-class levels, but I couldn't access inside of me what I needed. And I had joined masterminds and had hired private coaches for $30,000, and I was still stuck. And what ended up happening was I met this little-known coach in Rochester, New York, and he worked with me on high-ticket sales and mindset. And within 5 days, I sold my first $18,000 paid in full package. So I went from charging $200 to making $18K. And from there, people started asking me how I did it. I started selling 30K packages, 50K packages, and to kind of let you know where I'm at right now, when I privately work with the client for health services, I'm selling 65K packages. And that really kind of led me down into realizing a lot of the things that I would see when I wanted to help people with what was happening outside of the session, whether it was physically or on the table, is the emotions and the belief. And my first beginning practice of becoming a coach was really helping people with emotional wellness, and then started learning more about how to actually help them in their business, because you can be very healthy emotionally, but if you're suffering externally because you don't have the resources you need financially to take care of yourself, you can't change your environment, which then makes you sick again. You just validate the old belief. And that's really why I got into business coaching. Was I really got tired of seeing people maybe want to make the change, have the desire, but without the environment changing, go right back into it. And that is kind of what I do. So in terms of businesses, you could say what I do. I'm a father. So we were talking about connecting with your son. I have a son, he's almost 3. And so I'm here on vacation with a friend of mine in Portland, and I got a trunk full of toys for my son. Got like 4 train sets for him, marble towers, books, and just having a great time, just hanging out, eating food. So I'm married. I have a lovely wife. We've been together for 8 years together. We had 2 years of tumultuous times, which is a whole different story, but essentially 2 years of that, and then 8 years together. And we've been married for 5 years, and she's an entrepreneur as well. And I have the health and fitness business. I still have the gym business, by the way. It runs passively for me. So I have that as one business. I have the therapy as a separate business. And then I have all the coaching and consulting that I do. So that's a little bit about me, where I started and how I ended up here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You said something very interesting in your story. It kind of glossed over it, and I want you to kind of go back to it. And so there was a point. So you said you went on. You was at home. You're on the couch. You burnt out playing video games. But then you said you met a coach. But somewhere in between you meeting the coach and right at the end of your burnout, like what was that was going on with you that connected you with this coach?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm glad you asked that. So at that point, I was pretty much sitting at home playing video games, going to see movies in the middle of the day, kind of numbing out. And I knew there was more inside me. I didn't know how to get to it. And, I had hired other coaches. So at that point, I was pretty resigned. And I went to a few events and got excited and like, yeah, I want to make $1 million like everybody else. And then go back and it's like back to the same. And there was no path, no process, and nothing inside of my mindset was changing was the issue. So I had all these desires, but nothing was changing. And I had been asked for some help. There was a fitness friend of mine who was like a big minimalist. Like, you ever meet someone who's like, yeah, if you make over $70,000 a year, there's a study that says you'll be less happy every dollar you make after. This guy was trying to tell me that was true. Now I'm making over 70K. He's making, pennies. And so he's basically getting on a call with me, asking me like, how did you make so much money in fitness? And then he's arguing for staying in that kind of poverty. And what was really interesting is he was a mutual friend, and we talked, and then we actually hung out. And I literally tell you this, is he literally owned 15 items. Like, there's like some minimalists who count their items. This guy literally is one of them. Like, he had one pair of Vibram shoes, the toe shoes. He went to dinner in those. And it was just like the craziest experience for me because it was so different than my mindset. And what happened was my mutual friend, who was also a therapist, we got on a call. I was like, oh, how's this guy doing? His name was Jared. And they, well, Jared's doing really well, actually. And I went, really? It's like, yeah, Jared's now selling 10K programs. I just went, what the fuck? I went, that guy with that mindset is selling 10K programs. I know what I'm worth, and I'm not making 10K. I said, give me the number of the coach he hired. I want to talk to him right now. And that's how I met the coach. And so I've been looking for the way, but it hadn't shown up. And when it showed up, I had to not resist. I had to say, yes, this is what I've been asking for. And I made a $60,000 investment. And since then, that was 4 years ago. I coached with that coach for over 3 years. And now I'm actually the head mindset and sales coach in his program. That's one of the other things that I do. And so it's been a really incredible journey. But the interesting part is I look back at, just to give you a little idea, it's like I look back before I started with him 4 years ago, and I always think about it because my life was so different, Lamont. I was living in a rental house. My wife was getting on the bus to commute over an hour and a half each way to work. And Pretty much 30 days after I said yes to the coach, we got a notice that they were selling the house we lived in, and it was 2,400 square feet. I had to take all our stuff, put it into storage, found a 1,500 square foot place we could live in, and that's where I learned to sell high ticket. And it was so challenging for me because I felt like I was going backwards. You know, I'm making this 5K a month investment, and everything around me is shrinking, and that really tested that self-mastery. And one of the things one of my mentors taught me, and he was a UFC coach. He has more combine athletes that have been drafted than any other coach. And he taught me this, and he said, a master of an art reveals it in his every action. And for me, health, relationship, finance, the discipline, we talked about self-mastery. It was one of the first things you guys mentioned. I just loved it because that was one of the first things that fitness taught me. And I took that principle of self-mastery, I applied it to what my mentor was teaching me. And within 6 months, we got our dream house, 3,300 square feet, beautiful house. I had this vision. I could see it in my head, this white kitchen. And none of the houses my real estate agent had sent to me had a white kitchen, but I knew it was there for me, and literally sent it to me in the middle of the night. I pulled my phone out. I said, babe, this is the one. We went and saw it 2 days later. The next day, we had the house. And my life was so different because within 6 months of doing that work, not only did I live in the house that I always dreamed of, I had the business I always dreamed of. And I never forget the feeling of sitting there on vacation with my wife, drinking a beer, being free of being stuck in sessions, not worried about having the money, having the house I wanted. And my wife was pregnant with our son, and I was about to be a father. And I did not have the confidence prior to that to step into having a house, to step into owning my greatness, to step into having the business I wanted, to step into being a father. And all that changed for me so fast. You know, I can't believe it. And now 4 years now, my life is completely different. My wife's an entrepreneur too. She's not doing that commute anymore. And she has a 6-figure business, and it's just incredible. And, you know, it's why I do what I do, because my life changed so much. You know, I never would have believed 4 years ago when I was in that situation of being burnt out and depressed and going to see movies in the middle of the day by myself, that my life could be like this. Now, you know, I'm on vacation after this. I'm going to drive back. I'm going to bring my son presents, and I'm going to play trains with him, and I'm going to get to do what I love. And that's why I love teaching what I teach.
Wow. That's so beautiful. Go ahead, Bobby. I know you have a question.
Yeah, I just want to backtrack and make sure. Okay, so you said you saw the guy Jared, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was minimalist guy, not into that type of stuff. But next thing you know, you saw him later, and someone else says he's doing well, and he's selling 10K programs.
Correct.
And then you said, because Jared is selling 10K programs, give me the number, I should be able to do it too.
Right. Well, I knew I could sell. If he could sell 10K, I knew I could sell 50.
And that's what prompted you to say okay to a $60,000 investment.
It wasn't just that. It was the conversation that was different. So there's a few key things, but like when I teach someone how to have a sales conversation, you have to understand that most people, what was different between the 60K coach I hired and the 30K coach I had hired is that most people don't realize that when you're coaching someone, you're talking to the subconscious. So the desire is conscious, but the subconscious creates 97% of the decision-making process. So if you don't know how to talk to the subconscious, people will have all the desire and they'll leave that conversation without getting the transformation that they came to the call for. And so what was different is that I learned how to speak to the subconscious. He spoke to my subconscious. I could see the difference. And I'll give you an example. So here's how it actually went down is I finished working out at my gym on a Wednesday. I'm going to go lay around the house like a regular day and kind of be in my funk, find some way to numb out, maybe go shopping. And I get on the call with him on a Wednesday, not expecting to, didn't know his price, first off. I just want to know how he got Jared, this guy who argued for his own dysfunction, to sell 10K programs. And I went through it and I told him, he said, what do you want? And I went, I want a house. I said, great. Okay, cool. I said, I want real wealth. I was like, I want to pay my fucking taxes. I was like, I owe some tax money. Okay. So it's like, I know I owe the tax money. I don't want to look at how much taxes I owe. Okay. And to let you know, it was $15K and I paid it. Okay. Because this is what I wanted. I was telling him what I wanted. And he said this to me, and this is super important. He said, so you want wealth. So if you had $1 million right now, what would you do with that money? And I said, I would buy a house for me and my wife, and then I would give a large sum of it to my family. And he said, that's why you'll never be a millionaire, because you would get the money and you'd spend it all. You don't know how to think about how to make money. See, like most people, you get the money and it's gone. And when he said that, I knew to my core that that was the truth. That's why I had money coming in, it was gone. I needed to learn how I thought about what I thought about. And so these kind of conversations helped me realize how you can't sell a 10K program if you're not in the experience of someone who sells a 10K program. You can't sell a 50K program if you're not in the experience of someone who sells a 50K program, because your subconscious is telling you how to think about things. And that way of thinking is keeping you where you're at. So unless someone challenges that thinking, that belief, so you can have a new belief, you can't change. And that's what I realized. And so what was interesting is, I invested 60K prior, 30 in a mastermind, 30 with a private coach. And I had great mentors. Some of them really mentored me for free. And, it was interesting. Every time I was mentored for free, I realized that the results, they weren't good. And I didn't understand something I understand now, but I had a lot of hesitancy. I had a lot of self-doubt in myself about making that decision. So I scheduled a follow-up call with him, and I told him $60,000, I need to talk to my wife. Right? I don't know if you guys have done that. It's like, oh, let me put it on someone else because I'm uncomfortable, right? And I really wanted to see what she thought. I trust my wife. She's very wise. And I remember sitting there eating Mexican food with her, eating chips. And I said, yeah, I think I'm going to hire this guy. And she goes, okay, so you've hired other people. So what's different here? She goes, you haven't implemented any of that stuff because you're afraid of being, like, to say I'm a $65,000 health coach. I mean, that's scary. You're out there. And you have to be willing to endure all the criticism that comes with that. At that point, I was a big fish in a very small pond. And so I hid. And I was one of those people where it's like, hey, if I got a referral, I would call the referral. But as far as going out and actively seeking business, engaging, it's like I needed to know you loved me first before I could put myself out there, because I was delicate. Okay? I don't know if you've ever felt that. And that's really why symptomatically people don't build their businesses. They're afraid of rejection. And I had these feelings. I didn't know how to actually identify them. I just knew I had the problem, the symptom. And my wife said, well, you haven't implemented, so why don't you try this? She goes, why don't you go implement some of the stuff the other coaches gave you? And then if you do that, you can come back and hire him. And I thought, that's super logical. Now, here's the biggest thing that I didn't think about. Why would I take advice from my wife who's not created what I wanted? Think about that, right? It's like my wife's working at a corporate job, riding a bus 3 hours. I'm an entrepreneur who's had a 6-figure business since I was 22. For some reason, I'm asking her for how to think about it. So I go back to the follow-up call. And I said, what I'm going to do? I said, I'm going to go implement some things, and then I'll come back. And then, if I'm implementing some things, then I can hire you. He goes, can I ask you a question about that? I said, sure. Yeah, because I'm open, right? Because in my heart, I'm being serious. Like, I think, I want to improve. I'm not bullshitting him. And this is true about the subconscious. It's you believe the stuff in your head, but that's the problem. Okay? The problem is you believe the things in your head. And I'm 100% sincere. So when he asked me, are you open to looking at the thinking around that? I say, yeah. And he goes, so what would you say to a potential fitness client that said, I'm going to go get in shape and then I'm going to come back and hire you? And as soon as I heard that, I went, oh my God, well, that would never work. I said, all right, sign me up. Because I knew right then to my core that my thinking was so dysfunctional that I was never going to figure it out. And I am grateful to this day that I loved myself and trust myself enough to make that decision, to be willing to give myself the opportunity to grow. Because yeah, it was scary, but what was even more scary is for me to know I went the rest of my life seeing the problem, seeing where it was inside of me, and never changing it.
Wow, there's so much to unpack there. And I love that you talked about, because I was just going to ask that question, because I wanted to know, like, what was different about this particular coach from the other investments you've made before? Because you get to a place where you invest and you think that maybe it's the coaches, maybe it's something else, and you have to have a really hard look at yourself. But I really want to understand, like, what was different. But the power of those questions, the thinking, the thinking behind the thinking, knowing how to think on your thinking. That's how you put it. The thinking behind the thinking.
Well, you have to change the way how you think about what you think about. And so your subconscious mind, and I could talk about this all day. And this is really the difference, is why those questions are so powerful, is when you ask a question, you don't speak to the conscious mind, you speak to the subconscious mind. Okay. And that is how I teach my clients to actually be in sales conversations, because you're not going to get someone to consciously shift out of a pattern they've been stuck in, especially if they have any money shit. Okay. So when they get triggered around money, it's going to go. So unless they get some consciousness around how their subconscious is operating, you're going to hit resistance. Okay. It doesn't mean the person doesn't want to grow. It just means they don't have the tools to grow. And that's really what I help my clients do, is develop the tools of how to support the potential client. So at least if they're aware of why they are having the issue, they can choose. But most people, they're not even aware. And so they don't even have a choice. And they just end up stuck, which is what happened with me. And so there's a few key things, but one of it is, in the conversation with these questions, is that the person has to look about how they're approaching solving a problem. And my way of approaching solving a problem, which was really interesting, is the first thing is I went to ask the wrong people for the solution. So how often do you think I did that? Okay. So like, what do you think happened when I started making money and I don't have to work? Someone said, hey, you should just enjoy it. You should just sit around, do what's fun for you. But what did they ask me a question? Did they ask me, well, what do you think you really want now that you've accomplished that? Because I tell you, I never would have said I want to sit around by myself and watch movies all day. You see the problem? So no one's even looking for what's really going on inside of me. And that was a massive issue. And so understanding how a mind is actually thinking, when I work with the client, one of the things I really want to understand, a few things that are really huge, is what's the real desire a person has? What's the belief that stops them from being able to have that desire? And what's their pattern around showing up when the situation shows up for them to break through? What's their pattern for stopping having the breakthrough? Because if they don't know that, when you present them with the opportunity, what do? They go right back into the pattern. So most people have no idea any of those three things. What do I truly desire? What do I need to break through? And how do I sabotage my breakthrough? And if you don't have that, you don't even have a chance of breaking through.
Wow. Those are some great questions to ask. The quality of the questions determine the quality of the answers that you get, right?
Absolutely.
Those are some powerful questions. So you've obviously, gone through some layers of transformation personally. And, for the fellas in the group, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, professionals in the group. And would you say that it's about not assessing oneself appropriately that really keeps us stuck? Because you have guys who may have reached certain levels of success and they just can't break through for whatever reason. Is it a subconscious conversation that's happening that's stopping us from being able to truly live our desires and live out the way that we want and living in this constant cycle?
Mm-hmm. Well, Professor, that's a great question. The first thing to understand is that the values of what someone's willing to do is really based off subconscious experiences they had usually before the age of 7. So why someone might value giving back is usually an experience where they started to value that, and that became their programming. Why someone like the person who says, oh, I don't need any money and I'll just live on someone's couch and da-da-da-da-da, and I have 10 items. There's an experience they had that they added a meaning to, and now they're creating rules around that. Okay, so first thing is, if you're suffering in your life, you have to really ask yourself, like, why do I even have the values that I have? Okay, and most people don't even know that. They just say, these are my values. Okay. The second thing is, once you understand if that value is serving you, and you can understand where you need to shift energy in a different area, then you can look at that stuck area. Like, for example, when I believe, Bobby, you're driving Uber Black, right? These people are so successful making money. Where do you think they learned that was important from? They learned that. Where did they learn that being there for your children was not important from? I learned that. I remember watching my dad go sit. My dad was a doctor, and he also was in multiple businesses. And my dad would come home late at night, and if he wasn't out for a meeting, he would sit there in front of a computer. He would study something, and my mom would bring him a plate of food. And he barely said a word to me. And that affected me and how I grew up in my life. It affected me so much. The hardest thing after becoming a therapist, and why there was this little bit of a break in my life, is it focused completely on relationship, because I was really broken. And I'd manifested kind of these nightmare of women's situations. My now wife, for about 2 years, she was cheating on me. She wasn't even in the same state. She had another boyfriend she wasn't telling me about. And I manifested all of that because there was a deep need inside myself for someone to say, I choose you, because my dad did not choose me. You see what I'm saying? So if you don't understand that that's happening inside of you, you are in the downstream effect of all your childhood shit. And for me, I was in that shitstorm. I would yell at my dad in the middle of restaurants. We would yell at each other. My wife would tell me when we were dating, I hate it when you hang out with your parents because you are so depressed afterwards. And I would just spiral because I thought opening that gym, I thought kind of doing the opposite of what my parents always wanted to be entrepreneurs. I became an entrepreneur. They're like, hey, you have to go to college. Well, I figured out how not to go to college and become successful. And I thought if I could prove that to them, that some love would be earned. And it didn't. And so what I had to then do is when I started doing pre-marriage counseling with my wife and I felt insecure about us getting married and all this shit, I'm not making enough money and all this stuff. It's like I had to really look inside myself and what I believed and what I modeled after my parents. And I spent a lot of time doing that. And it led me to really healing the relationship with my parents. But I healed that first inside of me. And that's what allowed me to have a beautiful relationship with my wife now and rebuild the trust after those 2 years. And I didn't know any of that existed. I just knew the symptoms of how I felt in the relationship. And I didn't know that I was trying to get the love that I didn't get as a child. And I was valuing all of these things. And even when I had my son, I went, oh my gosh, like, I have a multiple six-figure business. I need to keep this going. And my wife would say, well, you got to spend time with Leo. You need to have energy for Leo. And I had this belief because I watched my dad that I could either be successful at business or be a present dad. It was an either or belief. And I could have both, but I didn't think I could. I was always choosing, and I felt like I had to choose one. And once I got awareness that I had just been modeling my dad's behavior, I was able to create both. But if you don't have any awareness and you're just in the downstream effect of all your trauma and all your beliefs, then you live life as if it's true. And it's a really, really hard place to be.
Man. So you know what I really appreciate about what you shared is that you took ownership of your transformation. And so many times in life, we're playing, I would say, the victim, right? We believe that it's somebody else's fault that is leading to us not getting to where we need to go. And listening to you, I got to give kudos because you're a demonstration of what it looks like to truly, number one, be aware of what's really stopping you and going the path and discovering that and realizing that's an important investment in yourself so that you can transform personally. And then, of course, to see that everything else transformed around you when you transform. Like, that is so, so powerful. And I so appreciate you sharing that with the fellas in the group because, again, I think we all in some cases live that way. Like, things have to change outside of us so that I can then change. And I mean, I don't know if you've studied anything about quantum physics or energy and all that stuff. I mean, you're into fitness, I'm sure you do. And how does that relate to, like, we talk about energy and relate to the concept of burnout and these thoughts themselves? How does that lead to this concept of burnout when we don't really manage the emotions, manage the energy, manage those belief systems at all?
Cool. Professor, I'm going to go super deep with you here because I studied it with Dr. resignation. He's a French physicist and engineer. And so here's essentially how it works. So understanding that your physical body, it can create a response to stress through 4 different glandular systems. Okay. So the brain, which is called the anterior pituitary complex, you can release stress hormone there. You can release it from the thyroid. So when people have thyroid cancer, too much stress and they're a thyroid dominant person. You can release it from your adrenals, which is the low back kidney areas, and you can release it from the gonadal hormones, okay? So that's your pear-shaped people. You ever see pear-shaped people? Those are gonadal people. They're usually very optimistic, and they're pear-shaped, okay? So every way that your body relies on stress creates a different toll. And so everyone genetically has a metabolic pathway that they rely on, and they need different things based off metabolic pathway. So one of the things I do with clients is like, okay, what's your metabolic pathway? What do you need so you're not hyper stressed? And do you actually have the environment to support that? Because if you don't, you're guaranteed going to be ill, okay? Because you don't understand how you actually buffer stress. So that's the first thing, okay? Because if, for example, let's say you're gonadal, okay? So one of the things you need to do is you need to have fun. So I had a client tell me, called me while I'm on vacation. I was like, okay, I'm not sure why he's calling me, but I'm not gonna call him back. And he kept calling me and calling me. And I said, all right, what's going on? He goes, I'm gonna check myself into rehab. So every time I drink, he goes, it's so bad. And I know he's a gonadal type. So I ask him, are you taking time to have fun for yourself in your life? Are you getting enough of that? And he says, no. And I said, so what do you think is going to happen when you put yourself in a situation where you start to have fun when you haven't had fun? He goes, I black out. Exactly. So the issue is you're a gonadal type. You need to have fun. The symptom of the misbehavior that you don't want is just a symptom of not understanding what you need in your life. And that's something we can fix very easily. Okay. But if you don't know that about yourself, how are you ever going to fix that? Instead, you're punishing yourself and you're in shame about the fact that you drink and you act like an idiot and you start doing stuff with women that you're not supposed to do. And then you lose trust in yourself when the whole issue is you don't understand yourself. And so if you don't understand, there's no awareness, you can't solve it. And so now let's talk about the quantum physics level. Let's talk about what also happens here. Okay. So under high levels of stress, there's chemical pathways that happen. Now, from an energetic standpoint, you have what's called in Eastern medicine, yin and yang. You know yin and yang? Okay, so a very common black and white circle, yin and yang. So yin energy heals something. It's called centrifugal, okay, which means it spirals back into itself. Yang spirals back out and it takes energy out. So you have to balance the yin and the yang, and you also have to balance the nutrients of the body between the yin and the yang. So when you drink coffee, very yang, burns you out, forces your adrenals. Some certain people have to be really careful with that, okay? So you have to look at, okay, from a molecular quantum physics level, what does the food do? What does the environment do? Is that yin, is that yang? And how is that person based off their hormones and how they actually create and process stress? What are they going to need from a yin and yang standpoint? And all of the energy that we have in our body, whether it's cellular, whether it's structural, all of it affects everything. And so one of the things that I'm always curious about when somebody comes with any issue like burnout, like this guy's clearly burnt out. Is he taking the time to have fun? No. Does he have really great goals? Yes. Is he achieving these goals? Yes. But are there symptoms in his life of not taking care of himself? Yes. And the impact of that on his marriage, on his company, on himself. I mean, imagine walking around going, man, I've cheated on the person I've loved for 15 years that I have 2 beautiful children with. I'm such a fucking asshole. Like, that is just a symptom of not understanding how to take care of himself and what he needs. And for men, man, that is so devastating because as men, if you're like me anyway, you strive to be the paragon of what you want your son to be like, what you want your children to learn. And when you don't understand that and you're just in the symptoms of judging yourself, I mean, how can you even look your son in the eye? You know, it's very difficult. And it's all just symptoms.
Wow, man, you just give us a master class of energy and, you know, awareness and ownership. Man, that was beautiful. And listen, fellas, if you're watching this, I want you to go back and watch this again, because I mean, what Isaac just shared with us is a deeper level of understanding of self that, I mean, I haven't even heard, right? So we certainly appreciate that, and because we're here in this business to help men transform. And we know that we deal with certain things as men, and to be able to level up, you know, having that level of awareness, asking ourselves better questions, having mentors are critical. So I have a question for you, Isaac, is, you know, as we are talking about this topic around trading time for money and burnout, what would you say, because we only have a few more minutes left, what would you say is the number one thing, what would be the number one thing you would say men need to focus on investing? If there was one thing they should focus on investing, what would that one thing be?
Taking care of themselves, without a doubt. Because that, the measure of money you have in your life, your ability to spend it on what you need, it's all based off the priority of taking care of yourself. I know men that make money and they spend it on everything but themselves, and they end up sick. They end up in pain. And when they stop having the ability to function, how are they able to take care of anyone? So you have to take care of yourself, not only physically, but you have to take care of yourself from a belief system standpoint, from an emotional standpoint. It's really the only question, like, the awareness that I have is understanding that when I said yes to working with this coach that changed my life and learning all the things we're talking about now, I've just repeatedly said yes to what showed up in front of me that I just knew in my heart I needed. That's the only reason that I'm here right now having this conversation with you. Like, even when I met Rudy, like, I was at an event and I was looking for a friend to go shopping with. And Rudy's a sharp dresser. I walked up to him, complimented his sports coat, and we started talking. And that's why I'm here right now. But what I could have done is been like, I want this, but I'm not willing to give it to myself. So instead of engaging this person, I'm going to shrink, or I'm going to go do something else, to do something that's more comfortable. And so I aligned myself to the desire that I was willing to give myself what I knew I wanted. And I was willing to navigate all the stuff that came around that and all the head trash that showed up around just walking up to someone and saying, hey, I really like your jacket. Okay. And it seems very simple, but understanding how the brain works through each of those, that's how I'm able to actually go through it. And it really comes from a core willingness to give yourself what you know you need. Every time you want something in the universe, we talked about manifestation in quantum physics. Well, there's actually a thing out there. You call it whatever you want. I'm not caught up on what you call it. But when you say, I want this, it starts moving towards you. Do you know that? It literally starts moving towards you. So you have to stay in the energy of wanting it. You have to stay in the action of moving towards it, because it's not moving like this. It's moving around, but it's coming. And you have to be ready to receive. You have to hold the energy. You have to call it. And when it shows up, what you can't do is this. Go the other way. And that's what too many people do, because they don't understand how manifestation works. So when you see what you need, when universe or God brings you what you need, you have to train yourself to show up to that, receive it, and trust yourself. Human beings, we're really interesting because we suffer from the inability to trust ourselves. And it hurts because when you say you're going to work out and you don't, you lose your self-trust. When you say I'm going to be loyal and you don't, you lose your self-trust. When you say I'm going to make time for my child and I don't, then I lose my self-trust. So your ability to have what you want in your life is based off one thing, and it's, do you trust yourself? And when you hurt that trust, it will forever stop you from being successful. And that's the thing that I have to help men with, because they have to learn to trust themselves again. Then they have to trust themselves enough to give themselves what they want. And through that process, that's how they manifest. But if any moment when you're speaking to this thing coming to you and you stop trusting yourself and you move away, that's when you lose.
Trust, would you say that has anything to do with that commitment or that consistency?
Well, there's actually different kinds of trust, and we probably don't have time to go into it today. But the simplest way to say is trust is when you say you'll do something, you do it. It is better to not commit to something than to say I'll do it and then not show up. Because your word is creation. So when you say I'm going to be there and you don't, you are taking away your ability to create, which takes away your ability to manifest. So from a spiritual level, you're actually defiling the laws of the universe. And that is why you'll never be able to create, because you have to work with the laws.
Yeah. Darren, we talk about it all the time, being in integrity, with yourself. That is like, so important. I taught a fitness class for about over a year. And one of the biggest things I stressed was, what this guy, he shared it with me. He used to be a defensive coach for the Seminoles. And then he moved over, I think it was to Tennessee. But he told me one time when I was transporting him in, black car, he says, he tells his players, there's only 2 times I want you to show up: when you feel like it and when you don't. Right. And that's something, when I learned that, I immediately put it into my fitness class, because I'm like, that is awesome, because we make so many excuses not to show up. Isaac, listen, it was so great. All the great information you shared with us is just so much value. You dropped so many nuggets. I know for sure I'm going to go back and listen to it. You said something about master and the art and showing up in every aspect. And I want to go back and get the quote and write that down. But could you tell us how people could get a hold of you? Maybe you said something that resonates with them. They feel like, they need to be close with you and reach out to you, and they want to bypass all the head trash and reach out and just connect, how can people get a hold of you, or where can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, I'm in this community, so obviously if you're watching this and you're in the community, you could tag me, reach out to me here. I'm also on Facebook under, it's right there, Isaac Ho Trainer, like we train people. You can add me there. You can, of course, go to my website, Isaac Ho Coaching, and read a little bit. But the best way to actually connect with me is on Facebook. You'll see pictures of me with my son and my wife and doing stuff. And, you know, I'm a real person. So the best way to connect with me is in real life and probably through Facebook, where I'm hosting content. I just want to say one more thing, Doc, about this is something I see clients struggle with, where they go, I have to do it if I feel it like it or I don't feel like it. What you really have to ask yourself is, what do you say about the task that creates you not feeling like it? Because feelings are created by thoughts. Thoughts are created by beliefs. So you could push yourself. It's like dieting, which has the root word of die, death in it. Okay. And you ever see vegan people? Being vegan is like one of the hardest things you could ever do. What do they say about being vegan? They go, oh, I don't eat that. And that's why my skin is so beautiful. Do you see how they have that could be true, could not be true. Okay. But the fact that they believe that is how they can go through that process and be successful. So if you have feelings that you're like, I've just got to push through, then you don't understand how the mind works. And if you don't understand how the mind works, you could achieve all of your goals and still be completely miserable.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Wow. This is good stuff, man. Like Darren said, you got a masterclass going here. Next time, we're going to have to talk to you. I got another question, but we're out of time. I definitely want to ask you, if you had $1 million, what would you do now?
What would you do, Doc?
It's so weird. I actually have a plan. I have a $1.1 million plan that if I got the money tomorrow morning, if I wake up and manifest it tomorrow morning, I have a plan. A lot of it has to do with investments and invested in education and coaching because I want to level up. As one of my good friends says, is that you can skip levels, right? And how to do that is you can tap in and collapse time by finding yourself a $65,000 coach, right? And they can collapse time and show you the faster pathway to where you're trying to get to. So, Isaac, we appreciate you, brother. I don't know if Lamont, if you had anything you wanted to add in there, or Darren had anything. Guys, you heard it. Isaac, drop in some serious nuggets. We're going to put you backstage, Isaac. We'll get with you later. Guys, this is CF Talks. We had a great time tonight. Guys, you got anything else? Anything else?
No, listen, that was a masterclass, man. That was more fun. I am full right now. I'm full.
I literally have to go back and watch. There are a couple of things that went. Yeah. So wait a minute. I got to reframe this. I got to get it again.
Yeah. And I just like to say to the guys, listen, that's what this community is all about. I mean, we just want to honor Isaac for showing up and sharing such amazing value with us. And one of the things is that, listen, if you don't transform, nothing else transforms. Right. And that's really, at the end of the day, if we were to sum it up, that you are the solution. You are the solution. We're a community here to support you to find that solution and continue to grow and thrive. So we are excited. If you have any questions, you have any comments, be sure to reach out to Isaac. He's here in the community to support you and reach out to him. He's a great guy.
Guys, appreciate you guys watching CF Talks. This is where we have heart level conversations that lead to transformation. Those of you guys headed up to Atlanta with us this weekend, we're going to check out Eric Thomas and all these great people. That is going to be awesome. Can't wait to see you guys out there. So if you are traveling with us, you need to reach out, DM, or send an email out to us as well. But we're excited about seeing you guys up there. We're going to have a lot of fun, man. I don't know it's going to be better than Spartan Weekend, but I think it's going to be really, really close. It may be better, though, because we got a lot more people coming this time. So we appreciate you guys for checking us out. Get in touch with Isaac if something he said resonates with you. Go back and check the replay. If you're watching this during the replay after we've ended the broadcast, go back and type in replay so we know you watched it. If anything was said that really stood out to you, share it with somebody else. Put it in the comments, put it in the notes, reach out to us. We appreciate you guys. Listen, that's the end of our time. Like we say here at Confidence Factor.
Inspiration injection.
Oh, yes, I'm going to give an inspiration injection. Hit it one time. Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. So That's our inspiration injection for the night. And what we say here, confidence factor, everything that you do, make sure that you keep it
Heart level.
heart level.
Heart level. Heart level.
Heart level. Take it, guys.
Next week.
Yeah.